Friends, we read about Jesus feeding the 4,000 men, not counting women and children. And we focus so much on that miracle because it was a miracle in itself. How can you feed 4,000 people with just 2 fish and 5 loaves? But have you thought about this? The boy, it was the boy's lunch. He surrendered that lunch over to Jesus, and Jesus performed a miracle with that lunch. That means for the bigger miracle to happen, there had to be a starting point. You've heard us say that God would ask, what do you have? He asked Moses this question, what do you have in your hands? Now the boy had 2 fish and 5 loaves. That was his lunch. He did not have to give it away. In fact, he would have said, no, this is my lunch. I'm going to eat this lunch and get satisfied. You remember the widow of Zarephath, where God sent Elijah? Elijah had asked that widow to make him some lunch with that little flour and the oil she had. She said, no, I cannot give you this. I am going to eat it with my son and die. But Elijah said, hey, just make me that lunch, and you will never run out of oil, you will never run out of flour. Now let's get back to this little boy who had a little lunch. You could have said, this is my lunch, I am also hungry, I need to eat this lunch. But he willingly surrendered that lunch. And when he surrendered that lunch, Jesus performed a miracle that resulted into so many being blessed. 4,000 men and women and children, not counting, benefited from the lunch of this little boy. What do you have in your hands? Have you identified your 2 fish and 5 loaves? Now, if you've identified them, will you practice obedience? Listen to God and see what He's telling you to do with the 2 fish and 5 loaves. Entrust them into His hands and let Him use them to bless you in return and so many others. You will be fulfilled, and many will benefit from your 2 fish and 5 loaves. These 2 fish and 5 loaves may be in form of gifts and talents, skills that you have, passions that you have. Identify those 2 fish and 5 loaves. Be willing to surrender them to Jesus and say, Jesus, here are my 2 fish and 5 loaves. Will you use them to perform bigger miracles that will benefit thousands and thousands of people? And yet I also stand to benefit. Do not hoard your 2 fish and 5 loaves. Use what God has given you. Surrender it back to Him. Give what God has entrusted you with back to Him, so that He will multiply it in order to bless many more, inclusive of you.